Now to history in the making. Lily Gladstone is the breakout star of Killers of the Flower Moon. She plays an Osage woman in a film that tells the story of the Osage murders at the hands of a crime boss in the 1920s. Gladstone is the first Native American nominated for a Best Actress Oscar, just one of many firsts for the 37-year-old. And despite that, Gladstone has kept the conversation on Indigenous people, their stories, and the talent they bring to the table in Hollywood. I got a chance to sit down with Gladstone ahead of the big awards show in our road to the Oscars.
You got nice color skin. What color would you say that is?
My color.
So where were you when you found out that you were nominated?
I was in Pawhuska, Oklahoma on the Osage Reservation. I'd been in Oklahoma earlier that week seeing Jason Isbell play in Oklahoma City. So that's one of the friendships I held on to from when we were making the film. And then I just decided to stay. So I was FaceTiming with my parents. My mom was filming the TV screen so I could see it, and I couldn't read it through the phone. So I was like, no, Mom, I want to see you and Dad. So she flipped the camera around, and I learned, based on their reactions, that it had gone that way.
And how have the Osage responded to all of this attention?
One of the silver linings of having been on strike when the film came out and not being able to take to carpets to talk about it, it gave the spotlight to Osage people who had worked on the film, people who were descendants of survivors and victims of the Reign of Terror, to go and speak about it first, which felt really appropriate. The story ultimately belongs to them. It was made by Martin Scorsese, but made with Osage people. It's really remarkable to see the kind of discourse that it's raised. You know, the level of ownership and pride of this story serves this big vision that Marty had that ultimately, I think, challenges audiences. It's been really remarkable that Osage folks have been able to speak about it so much.
I kind of felt a sense of shame that I had no idea about these murders that had taken place in Oklahoma for this oil inheritance. When did you first learn about this time?
You know, honestly, a lot of people, I think, express that level of shame, but there were a lot of Osage people that grew up not knowing about this because it was such a traumatic chapter. When the Reign of Terror ended, basically when the guardianship program ended, meaning white guardians managing the money of Osage people. Osage, culturally, you know, they talk about since relocation from their ancestral lands, Missouri, Ohio River, to Oklahoma, it's a tenet of the culture and survival to keep moving forward. You never stand in the same river twice. The water is always changing because it keeps moving forward. And I think when the Reign of Terror was over, a lot of people just wanted to keep moving. It's one of the few times in my own career when I've seen a role I'm playing on screen and I'm just feeling for that person. Like, I felt so much protectiveness over Molly, watching her in a way that, like, you know, kind of the way you stand up for your friends before you stand up for yourself.
I need you here. I'm right here, Molly.
Watching it from the outside as a film, and I was feeling the rest of the audience around me falling in love with her the way that I was. When you feel for her and you fall in love with her beautiful sisters, her incredible mother, these, like, incredibly emotionally heavy, impactful moments brought by these women on screen. There was a real humanization in getting at the heart of the people and looking at this relationship as an analogy for this larger system of exploitation of Indigenous people, of Indigenous trust. I think the film really did an immense job.
I've read that you kept a picture of Molly on the front of your script, and that it was important for you to show her as a survivor, not so much a victim. How much about Molly was there to know? How much of a deep dive were you able to take on her as an individual?
There's really not much known about Molly. I think a lot of actors get really excited to do a bio piece. You know, I am too. There's pieces that I'm looking at because you get to really sit and study somebody else's voice, their intonation, their body language. There was none of that for Molly. There were photographs. So these two photos that I had, the front was Molly before she had met Ernest. It was from a photo that she took with her sisters when they were very young, in their late teens, early 20s likely. The look on her face, I just would sit and absorb who she was. But then on the other side of my binder, I had a photo of her not long before she passed away. She has this kind of like head tilt that I totally could see in her granddaughter. It's a little bit of a wry smile, and her head was up, and she just looked like she had won. Her spirit is an Osage woman, and she reclaimed what was hers as best as she could.
Your reaction to being the first Native American woman to ever get Best Actress for the Academy Awards?
I mean, 96 years, it's overdue. I was so inspired as an actress, as a young actress, seeing Keisha Castle Hughes get her nomination for Whale Rider. And then again, several years later, watching Yalitza Aparicio get her nomination. Indigenous stories that center Indigenous women clearly make a big splash when they're out there. Being the first Native American nominee for this kind of blows my mind, because the origin of film, some of the earliest film reels that people were watching, pouring out to go see, were made by Native people, documenting and showing and capturing some of our dances, some of our own stories. American Indians were at the heart of Hollywood in the 1920s. Those artists back then really influenced the culture of film. Just because it's overdue doesn't mean that it's not wonderful. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have a huge impact for leading actress. It's a big deal. It's long overdue, but it's very welcome.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.